Late last night, a heavy cargo plane took off from Mica Airport in Caracas, Venezuela. It filed no flight plan. It turned off its transponder as soon as it reached international airspace, but satellite tracking data tells us exactly where it went. It didn't go to Miami, it didn't go to London, it flew east, crossed the ocean, and landed in Beijing. What was on that plane? The mainstream media won't tell you, but we will. Intelligence reports suggest that Nicolas Maduro, fearing an imminent US intervention, has just liquidated the nation's remaining strategic stockpile of silver and gold. This wasn't a trade, it was an evacuation of wealth. The assets are gone, and they are now sitting in the vaults of the Chinese Communist Party. This isn't the first time we've seen this. In 2019, similar ghost flights were tracked moving tons of gold from Venezuela to Russia and Turkey to bypass US sanctions. Now, the pattern is repeating with silver. Why silver? Because, as we have covered on this channel, silver is the strategic metal of the future. China knows that the US dollar is weaponized. They know that if the US invades or sanctions Venezuela further, any asset held in dollars or Western banks will be frozen. So they are physically moving the metal out of the reach of the West. This is the great silver exit happening at the state level. Why is China accepting this payment? Because they are hungry. China produces 80% of the world's solar panels. They need silver more than any other nation on Earth. By accepting payment and physical metal from desperate nations like Venezuela, China is acquiring resources at a massive discount. They are effectively trading their manufactured goods and political protection for hard assets. This strengthens the yuan and weakens the dollar. Every ounce of silver that flies from Caracas to Beijing is an ounce that will never be sold on the comics. It is removed from the global supply forever. The secret flight proves that US sanctions have failed. The US tried to isolate Venezuela to force a regime change. Instead, they forced Venezuela into the arms of China and Russia. By cutting them off from the dollar system, we forced them to return to real money, gold and silver. We inadvertently created a parallel economy where the dollar is irrelevant. Now rogue nations are settling trades in physical commodities, completely bypassing the New York banking system. The weaponization of the dollar has backfired. You might think, what does Venezuela have to do with me? Everything. The global silver market is tiny. A movement of 200 tons is enough to create a shortage in the wholesale market for weeks. When that supply disappears into a Chinese vault, it tightens the screw on every other buyer in the world. It means Apple, Tesla, and Samsung have less metal to fight over. It means the premiums on your silver eagles go up. When a sovereign nation empties its vault, the ripple effect hits your local coin shop within days. Watch for the media to start calling this blood silver or conflict metal. When the West loses control of a resource, they demonize it. They will say that buying silver supports dictators. They might even try to ban the import of certain silver bars. This is a sign of desperation. They can't stop the flow, so they try to make it illegal. But China doesn't care about Western narratives. They care about physics. They have the metal, and we have the moral outrage. In a resource war, the metal wins. China is not the only player in this game. Russian Wagner Group mercenaries have been spotted providing security for these shipments. Russia, too, is accumulating precious metals to sanction-proof its economy. We are seeing the formation of a commodity axis: China, Russia, Venezuela, Iran. These nations are pooling their resources to create a financial system that does not depend on the US Treasury. Silver is the currency of this new alliance because it is anonymous, valuable, and universally accepted. We reported yesterday that the COMEX vaults are empty. Now we know where the demand is coming from. It's not just retail investors. It's sovereign nations preparing for war. Governments hoard real money when they know conflict is coming. The fact that Venezuela is emptying its vaults suggests they expect a kinetic event, an invasion or coup. They are moving their savings to a safe house. This level of panic at the state level should be a warning to every individual investor. If governments are running for the exits, why are you still holding dollars? The US State Department knows about these flights. They have satellites watching every inch of the globe. Why aren't they stopping it? Because they can't. To stop a plane in international airspace is an act of war. They are watching their influence fly away, powerless to intervene. The silence confirms the decline of American empire. We can print money, but we can't stop the physical transfer of wealth from west to east. The hegemony is over. If a country leader like Maduro, who has access to every intelligence agency, decides that physical silver in China is safer than dollars in a bank, what does that tell you? It tells you that physical possession is the only true ownership. If you hold your wealth in a system that can be sanctioned, frozen, or debased, you don't own it. Take a lesson from the geopolitical playbook. Secure your assets outside the system before the crisis hits. Insiders report this wasn't a gift, it was a swap. Venezuela sends silver, China sends technology, surveillance equipment, and possibly weapons. This is a barter deal. No dollars were used. This is the future of global trade among the BRICS nations. Resources for technology. The US dollar, which acts as the middleman, is being cut out of the deal. When the middleman is fired, his value, the value of the dollar, crashes. This flight was not an isolated incident. It is part of a trend. Last month it was Ghana using gold to buy oil. Today it is Venezuela using silver to buy protection. Next month it will be Saudi Arabia. The dominoes are falling. The world is rejecting the fiat standard and returning to the commodity standard. We are watching the monetary reset happen flight by flight, ton by ton. As this trend accelerates, the US government will realize it is losing. Their response will be capital controls. They will try to stop you from moving your wealth out of the dollar. They will make it hard to buy silver, hard to move cash, hard to leave the country. Venezuela imposed capital controls years ago. Now they are the ones breaking them to survive. The irony is palpable. Prepare for the walls to go up in the West. Some analysts are trying to claim these flights were just industrial machinery. This is the cover story. You don't send a heavy cargo plane guarded by special forces just to move spare parts. You do it to move bullion. The weight manifest of the aircraft corresponds to heavy metal. We are connecting the dots that the media refuses to connect. The truth is heavy and it shines. The bird is flown. The metal is in Beijing. The US is left with paper receipts and political rhetoric. The secret flight is a microcosm of the global economy. The West is losing its physical wealth to the East in exchange for cheap consumer goods and debt. The secret flight is no longer secret. It is a signal. The signal says, get out of the dollar, get into metal, and prepare for a world where he who holds the gold and silver makes the rules. This isn't just about money. It's about firepower. The US military relies on silver for its Tomahawk missiles, guidance systems, and advanced radar. Every ton of silver that China acquires is a ton that Raytheon and Lockheed Martin cannot access. By helping Venezuela liquidate its stockpile, China is directly degrading the US military's supply chain. In a future conflict, the US might have the printing press, but China will have the raw materials. You cannot print a missile. This is a strategic defeat that the Pentagon is quietly panicking about. This flight is the first live test of the new BRICS pay system. They are proving they can move value across borders without SWIFT, without the Fed, and without Western permission. If Venezuela can move billions in wealth undetected, then Iran can do it, North Korea can do it. The sanctions regime, the primary weapon of US foreign policy, has been rendered obsolete by physical metal. The exorbitant privilege of the dollar is evaporating before our eyes. The LBMA in London is watching this closely. Venezuela's gold was famously seized by the Bank of England years ago. Maduro learned his lesson. Don't trust Western vaults. This time he didn't leave the silver in London. He kept it domestic and moved it directly to allies. This loss of trust means other nations will follow suit. We expect to see a wave of repatriation requests where countries demand their gold and silver back from London and New York. When they open the vaults to return it, they might find them empty. How did they move it so fast? Reports suggest they used dark routes through Africa and Central Asia to avoid NATO airspace. This implies a level of logistical coordination that rivals a military operation. It involves refueling in friendly nations, bribing officials, and flying under the radar. This entire infrastructure has been built for one purpose: to move physical wealth outside the US surveillance grid. The black market for commodities is now more efficient than the official market. The US economy is now exposed as a paper tiger. We trade derivatives, debt, and services. China trades manufacturing, infrastructure, and commodities. In a peaceful world, paper works. In a conflict world, commodities rule. The Venezuela heist is a wake-up call. While we debate pronouns and politics, our rivals are securing the periodic table. They're playing chess, we are playing checkers. For the people of Venezuela, this is the final looting. Their currency, the bolivar, is already dead. Now their government has sold the last of the family silver. This will trigger a final catastrophic wave of hyperinflation in Caracas. But it serves as a warning to us. When a government gets desperate, it sells the nation's assets to stay in power for one more day. The US government is doing the same thing by draining the strategic petroleum reserve. We are following the Venezuela playbook just a few chapters behind. Smart billionaires are watching this flight radar too. They see the writing on the wall. If sovereigns are hoarding silver, individuals should too. We expect to see copycat behavior from family offices. They will start moving their bullion from Switzerland to Singapore or taking personal possession. The jurisdictional risk of holding metal in the West has just gone up. If they can seize Venezuela's gold, they can seize yours. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Despite this massive movement of physical metal, the spot price on the COMEX barely moved today. Why? Because the secret flight happened outside the paper market. It didn't trigger a buy order on the screen. This proves the spot price is broken. Millions of ounces moved and the price stayed flat. That is impossible in a free market. The spot price is now just a reference rate for paper gamblers. It has zero connection to the physical flow of strategic metals. Intelligence analysts suggest that this liquidation is a precursor to a major event within the next 30 days. Nations don't move their treasury in the middle of the night unless they expect the banks to close or the bombs to fall. The timeline has accelerated. The calm we are seeing in the markets is artificial. Under the surface, the tectonic plates of geopolitics are shifting violently. Prepare for a turbulent January. The plane has landed, the silver is gone, the West is weaker and the East is stronger. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is logistics. It is weight and measure. The secret flight reveals the true nature of the world we live in, a world where paper promises are being abandoned for hard assets. Do not be left holding the paper when the plane leaves without you. Secure your position. The game has changed.